Okay, Mr. Doug. It's time. It's time to upload this PDF. This beta PDF. I'm like, this, I always get very nervous. I'm like uploading these, I don't know why. So, essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push the files to the products now. And then everyone will get notified that they have a new download. What if people are like, oh, this book's garbage? Okay, so I've added it and it should be available. So I've sent out the emails. Let's ping the Discord. So we got the Hametsu PDF out to people, and that was like one big milestone ticked off. Basically, we sent out a beta PDF so people could kind of, like the public, could give us the final tick of approval. We ran it through 2 different editors and the playtesting group pretty extensively, and Doug and I spent a lot of time just going through and ticking off edits, and basically we had like a ticket system, so we would just put tickets on the book, and then that way we could go through one at a time and just be like, all right, make this change, and that worked really well. This is the first time we kind of implemented this on a project, and I think it worked really well, and we actually ended up using that for Don't Look Back as well. And people loved the book, people were really into it, and that was really awesome to see. It's always nice when you kind of, finishing a book like this is such a monumental project in itself, and it was nice to get that done and get that out to people. And it's always a little scary because you hope they're gonna like it, and you hope they're gonna be like, wow, this is really cool, I love it. You also hope that they're not gonna find like, pages and pages of errors, which didn't happen, which is great. And we finalized the book and we sent it off to the printer, and we got the hard copy proofs back and they looked awesome. We approved those, and then we hit some delays. We hit a couple of weeks of delays after we approved the proof because there was some discrepancies with the physical proof, the PDF proof that we approved, and those weren't quite matching up. There was a couple of issues with a few transparencies, and it just took like a lot of backward and forward conversations with the printer. I was getting quite frustrated, and just because of the whole process, and it's not really anyone's fault. Every time there's correspondence, it's like a full 24 hours before we can get a reply. And then that reply comes at 1:30 in the morning, or 3 in the morning. So I would be asleep and I would put my phone as close to my head as possible. So maybe it would wake me up when I get the ping that I had an email from them. So then I would get out of bed and I would come over to my desk and I would reply to them because I didn't want to delay anything further. So, I mean, we learned a lot. Again, every project that we do, we learn something new, and we kind of like can go forward with the next one with that information.
Over the past few months, the team at Blacksite have been in the thick of production work, both on Hametsu and Don't Look Back. The backroom launches now feel like a distant blur, and the reality and challenges of producing all those products has set in.
Our goals with these backroom projects have always been very quick and dependable turnaround delivery. Now, there's always going to be some minimal delays, or at least you should always plan for there to be some. But right now, with like Hametsu, it looks like potentially we're going to be at almost 10 months from the opening of the project to fulfillment. 9 months from end of the project to fulfillment, which is like low-key pretty good. If every Kickstarter went and did it in 10 months, people would be, I think, a lot happier, or at least have a little bit better perception of that sort of service. If we want to be hitting those numbers on much larger projects, then we either have to change how the backroom is done, and I mean like the book can't be consolidated with all of the unlocks. It has to be in printing beforehand. Or we need to find a printer that can better meet what we actually need. Not that our printer has been like bad by any means. It's just like the nature of printing hardcover books is that there are these sorts of delays.
I feel like as part of the learning process, it's taught us something about, one more thing that we need to plan into fulfillment time, and that process of actually finalizing the book and getting it to print and doing all of that stuff.
I think we're getting a lot better at planning and pre-planning for things, and I think that we've definitely stepped up where sometimes it's little things and sometimes it's bigger things that you have to look at, like putting more complicated processes in place with staff. Organization can sometimes be a little boring, but it is vital when you're looking at the bigger picture of being able to deliver on these projects effectively. Do you think that delays like this can harm future backroom events?
Yeah. Now, we try to be very upfront with people and tell them about delays and tell them from the beginning that there might be delays. And that's why in the last message I even mentioned to people that if the delays become too severe, like we're already thinking of options of fulfillment, right? Because like you mentioned, our stuff is still chugging away. Our stuff is not impacted by the delays.
And when you say our stuff,
I mean MDF, I mean miniatures, I mean pretty much everything except the book.
Because we've had a couple of slight delays with like the outsourced book printing, that kind of puts more pressure on our in-house manufacturing to perform and deliver. Someone specifically is James, who casts all of our miniatures.
Because spin casting it's a completely different beast than just manual roto casting, which is what I did before, just putting the mold into like a fiberglass jacket and just rotating it myself. This is a machine that actually spins the mold super fast. So I mean, it's something that I definitely didn't have any experience with as far as that goes. But yeah, it definitely took some. It was a learning curve for sure. You have to figure out the sweet spot, the speed that you need to how fast the machine needs to spin the mold, along with, like I was saying, the clamp pressure. It took me a little while to get everything down, but I think I've definitely I've learned a whole lot since I started casting up until now, for sure.
So James came in initially for a resin casting position because he had some like side hustle sort of things that led him to think that it would be fun. At the time, we said, we don't have the capacity, we're not going to bring it in, but we do like you, and we're interested if you want to take over the painting position. But when the time came, we gave him the option just to switch over in that position, and he said, yes, absolutely, I want it. So then we had him run the machines for a few days. And then we said, hey, are you sure you want it? Because having the person have that autonomy, and like, it's important for us that employees have the freedom, the ability, the flexibility to make those sorts of decisions. He said, yeah, and he's been killing it. Like, resin casting is, like other manufacturing jobs, tough. It's you have a really hot box, you're dealing with resin, you have to have gloves, it's dirty, it's messy, you're spinning stuff, you have to peel it. Out of the 300 molds that we have, they all act a little bit differently, so you have to like learn how to look at the mold, read the mold. By read, I mean like infer that information, you know, how much to pour in, all that sort of stuff. And I think the fact that James had the choice and wanted to, I think him having that choice and the decision to move into it makes that job more interesting or more agreeable to do.
He's been doing such a good job. And, you know, casting's complicated science. It's complicated to learn. It's funny, like, his background is as a line cook. So I think that like actually set him up really well to do resin casting, I think.
I started doing fine dining pretty much right off the bat. I went to culinary school, went to a high-end restaurant here in Waco right out of school. I was actually still in school when I got hired on there. From there, I did country clubs, private dinners, that sort of thing. And I mean, I love cooking, don't get me wrong. I love to eat too, I mean, despite me being scrawny. It was one of those things where I realized very quickly, I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure if you don't know, look into it. A whole lot of people that work in the restaurant industry, if they do it for a long time, they develop some problems.
Like what kind of problems?
Alcohol, like just temperament, of course, like that kind of stuff, drugs, like, and that's like, I'm not about that life. So,
what is that? Is it a high stress?
Yeah, I mean, it's super high stress. I mean, you're having to go, and then like if something does mess up, dude, I got chewed out. Like after I got this job, I used to have a friend that he would always give me crap for playing tabletop games. And it's like, oh, well, guess what I do for a living now? I literally make all this stuff, and he was giving me crap for years. You know, why do you play that? It's stupid, blah, blah, blah. I mean, just because he didn't see the merit in it, you know what I mean? Like, if I would have listened to him and stopped playing miniature games, I wouldn't be here. And again, it's another one of those things, like, don't bash what somebody's into, because you never know, like, what doors that those could open up to.
It's the middle of the summer here in Central Texas, and the team has also had to contend with the crippling heat.
Man, yeah, this summer has been brutal. It has been just so hot. Like, it's weird. So we moved the company in July last year in the middle of summer, and it didn't feel this hot. It's gotten so hot that I think the lights are starting to fail in the warehouse. So we have like one light that's like strobing constantly. So, I mean, it's hot.
Having worked in it, because like I was the one who did all of that stuff up until like this year, it sucks knowing that they're struggling with it, and I'm trying really hard to like get things like we got these dudes, these like cooling things. These help a ton. They've been getting them wet, putting them in the freezer, and then you can wrap them around your neck. We've got like all kinds of little stuff that we're trying to do to help keep the employees cool. And It's rough. There's those couple summer months where it's just like brutally hot, and if you've never worked in the heat, it drains you almost instantly.
Even though the team is deep into production on Hametsu and Don't Look Back, they have had a few side quests. Malev's Demon Ship launched in April to great success, and Ben and Connor have revisited Lunar with some much needed updates.
Demon Ship just like hit. We went to Adepticon with Malev, and he had this concept for this game, and we were like, dude, this is sick. And he's basically just spawned this entire Malev microverse where he has all of these micro games planned out, and the guy is just like, he's such a clever game writer. You know, people know him from his Twitch streams, and people have kind of known him through his association with Relic Blade, and now I think he's building a name for himself as a really serious game writer, and it's awesome to see. Demon Ship was like a side quest for us, but it actually has been one of the best-selling games we've ever released. And I mean, I'm super pumped about it. It's really cool. Well, I mean, the next time you hear from us, we'll probably, I don't know, I will have been sculpting mechs. Maybe I'll be wearing a mech helmet or something. Who knows?